Apple is just one of these companies that never ceases to amaze me as they find ways to disrupt parts of the market that never needed disrupting. But considering the stock is way down from its all-time highs, there's a lot more bears than bulls. I want to deep dive into parts of this company that don't really show up on their balance sheets that might make you a little bit more bullish on buying this stock. But I want to start by sharing with you some of this recent videos that I found, starting with this one from Marquez. This guy really breaks down a lot of the tech industry, and I want you to take a listen to what he has to say.
Apple has made around $8 billion from AirPods. $8 billion. That might not sound like a huge percentage of Apple's business, because it's not, but just for some perspective, if you broke that off into a separate company and incorporated a new headphone company, AirPods Inc., separate from Apple, that company's revenues by itself would be enough to be a Fortune 500 company and probably somewhere in the middle of the pack, more than the bottom 200 or 300 of those. And plus, they're expected to jump up again in 2020 as iPhone 5S and iPhone 6 owners continue to upgrade and the headphone jack continues to disappear. A lot of the companies that were ridiculing Apple for getting rid of the headphone jack, along with you and me, well, they took a look at this again and saw that they kind of wanted a piece of that pie. Like, this would be a silly business decision not to get involved in this huge new market that's basically being created in front of their eyes. So they did the same thing. Google, well, they made a commercial calling out the headphone jack a year after Apple got rid of theirs. Then literally the next Pixel that came out had no headphone jack. And hey, what do you know? Google Pixel Buds now exist. OnePlus has been known to take their occasional jabs at Apple. They made their remarks, but 2 years after Apple, their new OnePlus 6T had no headphone jack, and their new wireless Bullets headphones appeared as a convenient solution. Huawei flagships don't have headphone jacks anymore either, but they'll gladly sell you their new Huawei FreeBuds to set you free of wires. Razer's phones also don't have headphone jacks, but you'll see their new Hammerheads wireless earbuds. I feel like I've seen that shape before. Amazon will sell you Echo Buds. Microsoft has announced their Surface Buds. Even the Essential phone, from a company that popped up on the map for 1 year and made one phone with no headphone jack, also happened to make a $150 attachable HD headphone jack adapter that is still listed on their site to this day. That actually has nothing to do with AirPod clones. That's just funny. But even Samsung has been one of the last major holdouts with a headphone jack in the Galaxy S. But sure enough, they got rid of that headphone jack on the Galaxy Note 10 and the S20. I'm afraid to say it, but that's next. And they've been pushing Galaxy Buds that conveniently charge right on the back of the phone that you obviously got them for.
If that wasn't enough to amaze you, I want to deep dive into parts of Apple's balance sheet to see if we can find some nooks and crannies of things they don't particularly publicize or talk about. And I'm specifically talking about Apple Pay. So ladies, gentlemen, let's jump right into this.
Drop it.
Welcome back, my passive income investors alike, to the conglomerate that is Apple, and trying to understand their cash flows and revenues, and is it worth buying in your portfolio. Many of you know Apple is the largest holding in my stock portfolio, currently worth about $11,269, with a lot of bearish people out there saying you shouldn't be buying Apple right now in these current market conditions. With a market cap of $1.26 trillion, I'm going to try and help you understand better why I hold Apple, because there is a lot going on in this company that they don't show on their balance sheet. Taking a look at their last year earnings, there's a lot of stuff in here that doesn't come up. They really simplify what is going on in here, but I want to pull out some information that they don't really publicize that I wish I could have more data points on. But just take a look at total net sales last year of $91 billion with gross margins of $35 billion. It is so hard to grasp that amount of money as profit. That is profitable in your pocket. What can we do with this money? But taking a look here, guys, of their breakdown of income, we can see that iPhones were actually up last year, Macs were down, iPads were down, but wearables were way up. As Marquez kind of pointed out, how much these AirPods are worth. It is crazy to see how these things completely disrupted and created a part of the market most of us didn't even know needed to exist. And the thing that I wanted to pay most attention to in this video is the services, which is starting to balloon up, growing by $2 billion last year alone. And the services alone make up a lot of different industries within the Apple ecosystem, but the primary one that I want to focus on today is Apple Pay. I was trying to wrap my head around how much of Apple Pay made up for their service income, and I found a few interesting facts digging around on the internet I'm going to share with you right now. I'm just going to go through a few quick facts, and then I'm going to analyze some numbers to see if we can actually figure out how much money this thing is generally generating for Apple. But the number of Apple Pay transactions in 2019 was 10 billion. Apple Pay's share of global card payment volume was 70%. Percentage of U.S. merchants that accept Apple Pay was 50%. And this was, by the way, in 2017. These are statistics from a bunch of different years. Number of countries Apple Pay is available in is 20 markets. Percentage of Apple Pay users that are outside of the U.S., 85%. There's much more domination going on outside of the US for Apple Pay than actually inside, which is a really fascinating statistic that they found in 2018. Increase in transactions on Apple Pay from 2015 to 2016 was 500%. Number of small businesses that accept invoice payments using Apple Pay is 2 million. I'll leave the links to this in the description below if you guys want to read through this, but I want to analyze some very specific numbers for you, starting with the number of Apple Pay users worldwide as of September of 2019. So we're only going back about 4 or 5 months here, guys, taking a look at the ballooning of this small niche in Apple's massive income sources. We're seeing a growth from September of 2018 to September of 2019 of almost 200 million. I don't know if this growth rate is going to sustain, but I'm finding that this is probably one of the most underrated parts of Apple that no one's really talking about. And it's primarily due to the fact that it doesn't equate to a huge amount of their income, but it is definitely starting to. So I had to find some numbers here, and it says the payment system is taking off, but it's not the widely used yet. Apple Pay is not likely to be a material revenue stream on its own anytime soon, which this, by the way, this article was in 2015, and I think they really underestimated the power of Apple, but they said it gets about 15 cents for every $100 in Apple Pay transactions. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but let's run some math here. Presuming that there is 10.98 million Apple Pay transactions going on a daily basis, and this was from Q3 of 2018, so we're already a year and a bit out from this current statistic. But let's presume we're doing about 10 million transactions a day, okay? We know that we're making about 15 cents on every $100 spent, so let's just knock that number in half and presume each one of these transactions might be worth around $50, making them about 7 cents. If you simply do 7 cents times 10 million transactions a day, we're looking about $700,000 a day, times 365 days in a year, and we're looking at about $255 million in income. And this is conservative in my opinion. I mean, like I said, these statistics are from a year, some of them are from years ago, and I think things have changed, and we're probably looking at a heck of a lot more than this number here. I mean, if we were to run the same math, so let's just run that number again, but let's presume they are doing at least $100 in sales on those 10 million transactions a day. We're going to times that by the 0.15 cents that they recommended here, and then we're going to times that, well, we'll see what the number is here first, because now we're looking at 1.5 million a day times that 365 days a year, balloons that number into a whopping $547 million. This thing doesn't equate to much. I'm presuming, Apple continues to make $30 billion a year in revenue, but it is mind-boggling to see the growth rate on every aspect of Apple. I don't know what it is with this company, but it creates markets and just disrupts everything, because they just came out with the Apple credit card. That was new, and they don't have any real statistics on that yet. There's just so much going for this company on a regular basis. Every time I get worried about it and I digging deep into this company, I always find another way to be impressed by how crazy this is. And let's presume they continually make 30 billion in profits a year. Just think about how much money that really is. I don't think people can grasp the reality of that, because to put that in perspective, guys, Waste Management is a phenomenal company. It is one of the largest holdings for Bill Gates and his portfolio. It is a stable company that has an incredible growth rate, and its market cap is only $49 billion. So in less than 2 years, Apple could actually outright own this company. I mean, take a look at something like Disney. Disney, I mean, its market cap is $208 billion, but Apple could finance owning this company and have it paid off within about 6 to 7 years, not presuming that they don't grow at all. And $30 billion is like their peak income, and that's where it just sustains out. I don't think it's easy to understand the reality of Apple, but it is something that Jim Cramer is one of my favorite quotes. He says this all the time: own it, don't trade it. I think that is a beautiful quote when it comes to a company like this. And I don't like talking about Apple too much. It's very out there, but I've been recently coming across those videos like Marquez's videos, and then just kind of deep diving into some of the little nooks and crannies that, if you guys want to go to Apple, you should check out and read through. They do a phenomenal job. Another thing I love about Apple is they really make their quarterly and yearly income reports super easy to break down and understand. They just don't give you a wide variety of every little niche income thing that they're making. And I imagine there's some estimates to this, because I can't imagine that it's that easy to do quarterly statements on, tens of billions of dollars. It's so hard to grasp your mind around that kind of money. Like I always get a little uncomfortable when there's a lot of bears coming out. A lot of people get skittish about Apple, but I mean, I've made so much money on this position. I used to have $20,000 in this stock. I pulled out some profits, and now I'm just kind of holding this as a little bit of a long-term game. But I would love to know, do you guys hold Apple? What do you think about it in that comment section below? I kind of wanted to touch base on a few things with Apple, because I know a lot of people are getting skittish about it. There's always a lot of bears on this company. I don't know why, because like I said, this company could stop making money off their iPhones, and they could just take the money they got and go buy another S&P 500, or maybe even a few S&P 500 stocks. Heck, most of my companies in my portfolio here aren't even worth more than $5 billion. Like GEO Group's worth $2 billion. You got something like Ryokan that's probably worth about, I think, $8 billion. In those two companies combined, Apple could buy out and still have $20 billion left over. It is hard to fathom what they have the capability with that cash flow. Forget about what they're making off their phones and the sustainability of that. I mean, just look at that lump sum they're bringing in every single year, the potential they have, and what they're doing with it is share buybacks. And I don't have a problem with share buybacks, because when they buy their own shares back, it actually makes the percentage that you own in the company that much larger. So anyway, so what a fascinatingly different video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay cool, stay awesome, and I look forward to chatting to you tomorrow.